Welcome everybody from the Spark Systems YouTube channel. It's great to have you here today. Once again, we're continuing to look at our urban parking system repository that's been designed and developed in Enterprise Architect. Recently, we've been looking at a number of Archimate viewpoints, and we're going to continue that today. My name's Scott Hebbard. I'm joined by Stephen Maguire, and today I understand we're looking at the requirements realization viewpoint. So welcome, Stephen. Nice to have you here. And what can you tell us about the requirements realization viewpoint?
Thanks for the introduction, Scott, and always a pleasure to be here. Yeah, this is an interesting viewpoint, and remember, it's part of the Archimate specification, language and framework, and this is a language that's the de facto language and framework for developing enterprise architectures, both from a strategic and business point of view, right down to the technology level. And interestingly enough, this particular viewpoint kind of spans that whole dimension, that vertical dimension, from motivation elements like goals and outcomes and requirements, and then how those requirements are realized by elements both in the business layer but also in the application and technology layers. So let's make a start and dive into this topic. This morning I've been doing some strategic work, and you can see up in the top right hand corner of the application we have a drop down here which drops down the perspective sets. So these are sets or perspectives that focus on a particular discipline or particular interest that you have. We're actually interested in enterprise architecture and the Archimate language. So we select the perspective set enterprise architecture and then Archimate the perspective. I'll select that. The tool changes its focus to be on Archimate, and we have a number of patterns that have come up in this builder page. And you can see here that we have these patterns and we've got a whole list of them there, and you can see the requirements realization viewpoint there. So remember with these viewpoints that the Archimate specification doesn't specify exactly what you should put in these viewpoints, but it makes suggestions about the kind of things that a particular stakeholder or group of stakeholders might want to see. So as always, Scott, I like to do things from first principles. So while there is great productivity gains for people if they want to use these patterns and simply click on the Create Model button up here in the top right hand corner, and that will inject the model into your repository. But I'm going to start doing it from scratch. So I'm going to close the builder page, but I encourage people to return to this page, not only for Archimate diagrams, but for almost everything in the tool. There's thousands of patterns that will help you get a jump start on your work. Close that, and now we're going to find a location to put our requirements realization viewpoint into the tool. So we're going to click on Enterprise there, Enterprise Architecture, that's what we're doing. And we're going to put it into the Business Architecture set up here. And you see there's a number of other perspectives there, from Capability Map and Strategic Viewpoint. So we'll just have a very quick look at some of those very quickly. You can see here that's a Capability Map. And this is going to keep company, this viewpoint is going to keep company with a number of other viewpoints. So we're going to now create a package for the requirements realization viewpoint, and we'll simply use the package icon on the project toolbar there, and I will put that in, requirements realization viewpoint. And now we're going to create a diagram. We could have done that in a single step, but I prefer to do it separately to show people the two separate parts of this. So we're going to create this diagram here, and we're going to choose again the new diagram icon in the project browser toolbar, and we'll say new diagram. You can see that Archimate is the only perspective that we've got set there, and we've got a number of different diagram types. Now there's a little arrow here showing that these are drop downs. I can drop these down and we can look at these different viewpoints. The requirements realization viewpoint is under motivation, and that's because it's got a number of motivation elements as part of it. And we'll see that as we dive into the topic. So we'll choose that as the diagram type, and you can see what Enterprise Architect has done for us is that it's limited the toolbox pages to the kind of things that Archimate prescribes that we should have in this viewpoint. And you can see that actually it's quite extensive. We've got motivation concepts there, we've got strategic concepts, and we've also got these requirement realization ones which extend the other ones. So we've got applications and business and also technology. So it's a very expansive viewpoint. So you need to take a path through it and decide what you're going to create in this viewpoint. But you may have a range of different requirements realization viewpoints for different stakeholders that emphasize different things. We're going to look at it from the point of view of a goal, the outcome, the requirements that realize that outcome, and then the applications and some technology pieces. So that's the path that we're going to take. So let's make a start here, Scott, and let's put in a goal as our first port of call. So what we've got here is the improve urban efficiency. So let's put that in, and we'll put a goal in, dragging the goal in from the toolbox, put that in, and give it a name there. And now we're going to put in some notes as well. So we'll put those in. And remember, you may have these elements in other parts of your repository. So we want to do this from scratch so I can show people what we're doing. But if you have already defined these goals in another part of the repository, perhaps in another viewpoint, then you should go and use those ones and drag those onto the diagram. But we're not going to do that. We're just going to create these from scratch to show people how we do it from first principles. So that goal, you can see over in the properties window, it's got a type goal, and it's got a stereotype of an Archimate goal. We're now going to put in a different element, and that's going to be an outcome. So we'll drop an outcome in there, give it a name as well. And you notice the name, Scott, has got some metrics on it. So optimize parking space utilization by 15% in the first year. So important to have that metrics there so it can all be tested. We'll put some notes in there. And now we're going to get down to the requirements side of things. So we'll just put this connector in between these two elements. And let's say that it realizes that goal. So yep, we can say it was influenced, but say it realizes. Let's get another requirements element we can put in now. So we'll put in a requirements element called mobile payment support. So this is a requirement for moving the parking meters from being coin-operated meters through into being much more sophisticated. That like we'll be able to be parking be paid for by a mobile phone or smartphone. So there it is. We can put that in there, and again we put our notes in. So let's put some of those notes on. I've got that in my buffer now. I'll put those notes in. Let's join this up as well. And EA does the work with the connector, saying we've got influences or realizers. Let's just say that's a realized relationship. And now let's put in some other elements. Now we can move to different parts of the toolbox, and let's put in an application service. So a number of people will go straight from a requirement into an application component, but I like to put the application service in first. It gives a level of indirection between the two layers there. So we can give this a name. So we'll put in payment processing there, the service. And again, we'll put some notes in for that. And there we have the notes. And we'll use the realization relationship because we're going down through these layers, and each layer is sort of realizing the one above it, or each part of the diagrams there.
So the payment processing realizes the mobile payment support, which then realizes the outcome of optimizing the parking, which then realizes the improved urban parking efficiency.
Yeah, that's right, Scott. So some people will start the realization, the requirements realization viewpoint from the requirements level. So they'll put in, for example, here, and they'll start here, and they won't have the other elements, the other motivation elements higher. But I like to do that in this viewpoint. It certainly is part of the specification, but it gives people an understanding of where that requirement is coming from. It didn't come from, it wasn't just made up in space. It came from the fact that we had this outcome and this goal that we wanted to improve urban parking efficiency. So
with your consulting experience, do you get a bit of a mixture of both, where some people have a top-down approach starting with the strategy, and then others have a bottom-up approach where they have some of the requirements and applications and services and want to build that up?
Yeah, Scott, that's exactly right. People come at this from different directions, and it depends upon a little bit about people's backgrounds, where they where they come from. But in the end, the finished diagram is the important thing, or the progression of the evolution of the diagram. You don't necessarily have to finish it in one go. It can evolve. And you're right, it's a little bit like a mathematical proof. If you remember back to your mathematics days where, you get a proof to do and you can solve it either coming down from the top or bottom up.
Yep.
And a combination of both is quite a useful thing to do. You might, know some things. Don't balk it. Don't get balked on the diagram. Don't get canvas fright. Just put in what you know. And if that happens to be at the bottom, the top, it doesn't matter. So long as you keep progressing and evolving that diagram. We're going to put in an application now. So we'll put in an application component, drag that onto the palette there, and we'll call it mobile payment app. So app there, and let's put some notes in for that element, and we'll again use the realization relationship there. So Scott, this is the progression. We've got some other technology pieces to put in underneath this as well, but what I'm going to get you to do is to perform some of your time travel magic, and I'll complete the diagram and we'll see you back here just in a few seconds.
Welcome back, everybody. We've performed a little bit of time travel magic and we've now got our completed diagram. And I can see now that we have a number of different outcomes and requirements. So can you tell us a little bit more about the diagram and what we've achieved so far?
Yeah, thanks, Scott, for the introduction. I'm just going to tuck the toolbox away now because we're not actually adding new elements at this point. I can use the chevron up here just above the builder page to do that, and that tucks it away. And don't be concerned about that. I can just bring it back at any time, but it gives me a little bit more space in the diagram there. So the diagram has been largely completed. And what we've done is we've added a number of other requirements, so real-time availability, and you can see the notes on those elements as we go, explaining what they are. The requirement mandates that system must track, communicate the current status of parking spaces to drivers, and this other one, the enforcement integration, and that's the one where the parking fines get issued. So important thing for the revenue of the city government, but not such a favourable thing for motorists. The analytics capability, so there has to be some analytical capability to be able to analyse the information, the data that you've got, and come to some conclusions and feedback into into system development things. Underneath that layer, so let me just go through the layers very quickly. We've got this one up here, which is the goal. I'm going to turn on my presentation mode so you can see as I'm doing this, Scott, you can see that element there. That's a goal. We've got here the outcomes. We've got requirements coming down in this next layer. So these are all motivation elements. And then we come down into the aqua ones, which are related to the application layer. And you can see we've got all these ones here, which are application services. So they're not doing the work themselves, but they're saying that the service is offered. And then the layer below, we have the application components. That they are underpinned by these technology services. So again, not doing the work itself, but we have these elements under here, which are the nodes that are actually carrying out some of that work. So you can see it's traversing that layer. Handy tool to use, Scott, a little tip, is to use the pan and zoom. That window's just there. If it wasn't open, you can simply go to the layout ribbon and click pan and zoom from the tools panel of the layout ribbon. And you can use the slider control on this to expand the diagram if you want to, and then move the viewport around to see there. One thing that we haven't done on this diagram is we haven't got a legend that's going to give us the colouring of these particular connectors. So let's do that. Let's go and get a legend from our library here, and I'll just drop this down. This legend's here. We've got this Archimate connector legend. So let's just pop that in and see what it does. You can see it colours the connectors and allows people who are not familiar necessarily with the Archimate specification to understand what they are. Well, I've got the Archimate terms here: composition, assignment, but you actually could, if you wanted to, put in some more more basic information or a name. So instead of composition, you could put in made up of or something like that.
So you could change the language.
Yeah, exactly.
For the audience, even though the definitions themselves remain the same. Yeah,
that's right, Scott. And the other thing we got, I don't think we've got, we just pan and zoom around there and have a look. I don't think we've got a diagram note in there as well. Let's do that. And that's a simple thing to do. If you notice, the diagram itself does have notes, but I want to express those in the diagram. So maybe I'm printing this diagram, and rather than being available in the tool, I want it to be on the diagram. I can simply put my toolbox box back again, because I need to do that, and go down, scroll down, right down the bottom here until we come to common elements. So these are elements that apply on almost all diagrams. I'll put the note into the diagram, drop that in. Now I can write some text in there, so I could say, you know, this diagram, and that would come up in that little window. What I'm going to do, Scott, is I'm going to use the diagram notes because I already have them there. I don't want to retype them. So what I'm going to do is select this element, and in the advanced menu option there, I'm going to say link to diagram note. And there, the notes are there. I might make it the same, roughly the same size as this one. And I can also color that if I want. So I'll select that. I'll turn the presentation mode off for a minute. You can see that this one's selected, and I'm going to just put it, change its color there from this toolbar and say I want it to be a brighter color, a little bit too bright. So let's pare that down a little bit, and we can do that by just changing the hue and the chroma and things on that element. And now you can see there it is there. So that's a useful thing. Scott, I want to show one other thing that I think is an interesting part of the tool that a lot of people don't realize is that the Archimate language allows you to put different visualizations on the elements if it's more meaningful to particular stakeholders. So what I'm going to do is I'm just zooming down in this diagram a little bit using my control key. I'm going to make a little bit more space here, and just going to move these elements down a tad. And always feel free when you're doing work on diagrams to do that kind of thing. It makes it much easier. I'm going to look
How did you select all of those elements at once?
I just lassoed them, Scott. It's a kind of, you know, a standard kind of drawing feature that most drawing tools have, and EA has it as well. I can just do that. If I don't want some elements, I can hold the control key down and turn particular ones off. But, you know, the lasso does that work for me. So let's just move these ones down a little bit as well. And what I'm going to do, Scott, is I'm going to use an image for the mobile payment app. So we've, you know, in other parts of the videos, we've used an image for that. So let's look at that. We've got an image called Smartphone App and Tap. So let's put that out. All we have to do is drag that on top of this mobile payment app element, and we can say set as alternate image. And you can see that pops that up. I can just resize that now, make it a lot bigger, put it up there, and you can see now that this, you know, this image tells a lot more of the story. It's the interface for a smartphone tap onto.
So that might be useful for a business audience to help tell the story a little bit better.
Exactly, Scott, and also that, you know, that interface is a useful thing also for, you know, for technical people. They can look at it and understand that, and you can do that for any of the elements. But, you know, some elements will it'll be better to do it for those. But it gives that, turns the otherwise standard Archimate diagram into a different kind of narrative where you've got this, you know, this picture telling a lot of the story. So the same with this, you know, mobile device. We could put, you know, something on that as well. We've got, you know, lots of other images here, and of course you can create your own images.
Is it easy to add those images to the repository?
Look, extremely easy, Scott. You know, you can do it in a number of different ways. That is the subject of another video, but it's extremely easy to do. Look at one of the other videos we've done on images, and you'll see how to do that. The element is actually in the toolbox, so you can add it from there, and you can also add it from the image manager as well. So lots of different options. But I encourage people to do that, especially in the particular field they work in. You might be working in, you know, in weather forecasting or something. You might be working in insurance. You could be working in motor vehicle manufacturing, aerospace, and you can create your own images and use those to embellish your diagrams. So that's it for the requirements realization viewpoint, Scott.
Excellent. Well, thanks, Stephen. It's been great to see how to develop the requirements realization viewpoint in Enterprise Architect, going all the way from a high value goal down through to requirements and through to application. So that's really good. To our audience, thank you very much for joining us today. We always love having you watch our videos, give us feedback. As always, if you've enjoyed the video, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. If you have any questions about Archimate or the requirements realization viewpoint in Archimate, you can reach out to Stephen using his credentials in the video description below. Stephen, thanks once again for all your expertise and help. It's been great to see this diagram come together so easily. Thanks so much.
Always a pleasure, Scott.